telling my parents to give up on my sister. I am 17 years old, a girl in her last year of high school. My sister Casey is 27 and my younger brother Jack is 14. Casey is a drug addict. She has been for the past 7 or 8 years. My parents think they can help her, but they clearly cannot. She does not want help. They have sunk an ungodly amount of money into every possible treatment for her, and Jack and I have been put on the back burner as a result. I am about to graduate school, and every year my school plans a trip for the graduating class. It is something I have been looking forward to for years, because of how everyone I know who has been on it has talked about it. Casey went on it years ago and has always hyped it up to Jack and me for when we get to go on it. My school sent out the breakdown of the cost of it and the payment plans scheduled to parents last week, and tonight my parents sat me down and told me I would not be going because they are going to put the money into more rehab for Casey. I have been dealing with this for years now. Everything has been ruined by her and her inability to see how much she is hurting our family, so I lost it this time. I told my parents that it is not fair that they think it is actually going to work and they should just give up on her until she says she wants to get better, because she has never even tried. As soon as she is out of rehab, she is back to her old ways. My parents now are not talking to me. Jack agrees with me, but my parents think telling them to give up on their daughter was an evil, nasty thing to say and that I need to show some compassion. They told Casey about it too, and she has been kind of salty with me all night. Casey was not always like this. When I was little, she used to play with me all the time. She would braid my hair, take me for bike rides, and tell me funny stories about school and boys. I remember looking up to her like she was a star. I still remember the time she came home with her graduation gown. I must have been around 8 years old and I had never seen her smile so wide. She was proud and we were all proud of her. But something changed after she turned 19. At first it was little things. She would stay out late or miss family dinners, then she lost her job, then she stopped coming home for weeks at a time. My parents said she was figuring things out, but I knew something was wrong. Eventually they told us Casey was addicted to drugs. That was the beginning of the hard years. Casey would disappear for weeks or months, and then come back when things got bad. My parents would take her in, pay for a new rehab program, and promise us that this time things would get better, but they never did. There was the time she stole money from Mom's purse. Another time she took my dad's credit card and used it to buy who knows what. Still, my parents kept saying, "She's sick, we need to help her." And while they were busy helping her, Jack and I were quietly watching everything fall apart. My birthdays became quieter, Jack's school concerts got skipped, the money they used to save for our college funds got used for clinics and therapy. I never wanted to be selfish, but it started to feel like Jack and I were invisible. When the school announced the graduation trip last year, I felt a spark of joy I had not felt in a long time. Everyone always said it was amazing. It was 5 days of hiking, campfires, team games, and a big dance on the last night. Casey went when she was a senior and always talked about how it was the best trip of her life. That made me want to go even more. I told my parents about it and they smiled. My mom even said, "Of course we will make it work." But tonight that all changed. We were sitting at the dinner table. Jack had already gone to his room and I was helping Mom clear the plates. That was when Dad asked me to sit down. His voice was soft, almost like he was trying to break bad news without saying it out loud. "Sweetheart," he said, "we need to talk about the trip." Right away, I knew something was wrong. Mom added, "We looked at the cost and with Casey going into another program, we just cannot afford both." It felt like the air left the room. I had been dreaming of this for years. I asked, "But I thought we were going to make it work. You promised." Dad looked tired. "We did, honey, but this program is different. They say it could really help her." I felt a burning in my chest. "Not again, not after everything. She has been to 5 programs," I shouted. "You said that the last one was different too, and the one before that." Mom tried to calm me down, but I stood up. "You keep choosing her over us, over me, over Jack. She does not even want help. You are throwing money away for someone who does not care." Dad looked angry. "That is your sister." "No, that is your daughter. I am your daughter too, and so is she, but only one of us ever gets what she wants." That was when I said it. "You should give up on her until she actually wants to get better. She is not going to change until she wants to, and right now she does not want to." The room went quiet. My parents stared at me like I had said something unforgivable. Maybe I had, but it was the truth, and I had been holding it in for too long. Later that night, I found out they told Casey what I said. She sent me a short message. "Nice to know how you really feel." That was it. No apology, no promise to do better, just guilt. And now my parents are not speaking to me. They walk past me like I am invisible. Jack came into my room and said he agreed with me. She is never going to stop unless she actually wants to, he whispered. It is not your fault. But that does not make it easier. I feel like I broke something in our family, but maybe it was already broken. The next few days at home were quiet, not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the heavy kind that feels like a storm is waiting to happen. My parents barely spoke to me. They did not yell, but they also did not ask me how school was or say goodnight before bed. It was like I had turned invisible in my own house. Casey was still staying with us. She usually slept in the basement on the pull-out couch, but lately she had been up in the kitchen more often, moving around like she owned the place. She would roll her eyes at me whenever we crossed paths or sigh loudly just to let me know she was annoyed. Jack and I kept to ourselves. He spent more time in his room playing video games, and I kept my headphones on while I did homework. We were not angry at each other. We were just tired. Tired of being stuck in the middle of something we had no control over. One afternoon, I walked into the kitchen and found Casey pouring cereal into a bowl. She glanced at me and then looked away like I was just some stranger. You know, she said after a moment, you did not have to say all that to Mom and Dad. I kept my voice calm. I said what I needed to say. She let out a small laugh. Wow, you think you know everything, huh? No, I replied, but I know what it feels like to be left out. You do not get that, do you? Casey turned to face me. You think this is easy for me. Do you think I want to be like this? I shook my head. Then why do you keep doing it? Every time they help you, you go back, every single time, and they just keep choosing you. I did not ask for this, she snapped. I did not ask to be addicted, and I did not ask to lose my chance at something I have waited for since I was 12. She stared at me but said nothing. After a few seconds, she took her cereal and left the room. That was how things were now, full of unfinished conversations and words no one really wanted to say out loud. A week later, my school sent home the first payment reminder for the graduation trip. I already knew I would not be going, but holding that paper in my hand made the truth sink in deeper. My classmates were talking about what they were packing, what songs they would dance to, and who would bring the marshmallows for the last night's bonfire. I tried not to cry in front of Jack, but one night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat on my floor and let the tears fall. I was not just crying about the trip. I was crying for all the times I had been pushed aside. For every birthday Casey had missed. For every time my parents forgot something important because they were busy chasing after her. I cried because I was angry, and I cried because I felt guilty for being angry. That weekend, I heard my parents talking late at night. I stayed near the stairs, out of sight, and listened. We are losing her too, my mom whispered. She is still here, Dad replied. No, I mean emotionally. She is pulling away, so is Jack. She does not understand. She is still a kid. She is 17. And maybe she understands more than we want to admit. There was a pause, and then my mom added, maybe we have not been fair. It felt strange hearing that. It felt like something cracked open in my heart. But the next morning, no one said anything. My parents still acted the same. Maybe they just did not know how to talk to me anymore. Later that day, Jack and I went for a walk. It was cloudy and the air smelled like rain. We walked in silence for a while, kicking little rocks on the sidewalk. Then Jack said, do you ever think about leaving? I looked at him, surprised. What do you mean, when you graduate, college or whatever? Just leaving, getting away from all this. I nodded slowly. All the time. I love them, he said, staring down at his shoes, but I am tired of always being second. I reached out and squeezed his shoulder. Me too. That was the first time we really said it out loud, that we were not okay, that we felt forgotten. And it brought us closer. Back at home, Casey was packing for her new program. My parents had found a place out of town that cost even more than the last one. They were hopeful again. I could hear it in the way they talked about it. This place is different, they said. They specialize in long-term recovery. It sounded just like every other time. Before Casey left, my mom asked me to come to the living room. Casey was sitting there with her bag at her feet. My dad was standing nearby. We wanted to say goodbye as a family, my mom said gently. I did not know what to say, so I stood quietly. Casey looked at me. I am sorry you are missing your trip, I nodded. Thank you. She looked like she wanted to say more, but instead she picked up her bag and left with Dad, just like that. Mom stayed behind and sat on the couch. I know you are hurt, she said. I know we have not always made the best choices. I sat next to her but said nothing. We love all of you, she continued. We are just trying to keep this family together. I looked at her and asked, "But what if trying to save one person ends up breaking the rest?" She did not have an answer. She just pulled me into a hug. That was the first time in weeks that I felt like maybe someone heard me. The house felt a little quieter after Casey left for rehab again. There was no more late-night arguing, no footsteps on the stairs at 3 in the morning, and no more awkward silence in the kitchen. For the first time in a long time, things almost felt normal, but the truth was, the sadness had not left. It was just hidden under the surface. I tried to focus on school. Graduation was coming up fast, and even though I would not be going on the trip, I wanted to enjoy the rest of senior year as best as I could. My friends talked about the trip all the time, what they were packing, who they were sharing rooms with, and how they planned to take a million pictures. I smiled and nodded along, but deep down it still hurt. One day my best friend Rachel pulled me aside during lunch. "Are you really not going?" she asked gently. I shook my head. "We can't afford it." Rachel looked sad. "I wish I could pay for you." "I know," I said. "But it's okay, I'll be fine." She hugged me, and for a moment I felt less alone. At home, Jack was also having a tough time. He missed Casey, but he also felt like nothing ever changed. He would sit at the dinner table with his head down, quietly eating his food while our parents talked in whispers. One night he looked at me and said, "Do you think they'll ever stop chasing after her?" I thought about it. Maybe, but maybe they're too scared to let go. "Why?" he asked. "Because letting go feels like giving up, and they love her too much to do that. But they love us too, right?" "Yes," I said quickly, "I know they do. They just don't always show it the right way." That night I heard Mom and Dad talking again. They were on the phone with Casey's counselor from the new rehab center. I stayed in my room, listening to the sound of their voices through the wall. They were hopeful again, I could tell. The same kind of hope they always had. The next morning, Mom came into my room. She knocked first, then sat on the edge of my bed. "Good morning," she said softly. "Morning." She looked down at her hands. "I wanted to talk to you." I sat up a little straighter. "I know you're still upset, and I don't blame you. But I want you to know that we are proud of you. We see how hard you work, how you take care of Jack, how responsible you are. You're an amazing young woman." I blinked fast, trying not to cry. "I'm sorry we had to say no to the trip. I know how much it meant to you." "It's not just the trip," I said quietly. "I know," she replied. "I know it's everything." She reached over and held my hand. "We've made mistakes," she continued, "and we've let Casey's problems become the center of everything. We thought we were doing the right thing, but maybe we were too focused on saving her and not enough on supporting you and Jack." I swallowed hard. "It just feels like we don't matter as much." "You do," she said. "You matter so much, and I promise we're going to try to do better." It was the first time my mom had really admitted that out loud, and even though it did not fix everything, it helped. A few days later, my dad came home from work with something in his hand. It was a small envelope with my name on it. "I know it's not the graduation trip," he said, "but we wanted to give you this." Inside the envelope was a gift card for my favorite bookstore and a note, "We are proud of you. You deserve to be celebrated." It was simple, but it made me smile. I began to spend more time doing things that made me happy: reading, drawing, taking walks with Jack. We made our own kind of peace, even while the rest of the world was still a bit messy. One sunny Saturday, Jack and I rode our bikes to the park. We packed sandwiches and sat on a bench near the pond. We talked about school, our favorite books, and what we wanted to do when we got older. "I want to be a teacher," Jack said. "That's perfect for you," I replied. "You're patient and kind. What about you?" "I don't know yet, but I think I want to help people, maybe be a counselor or a social worker." Jack nodded. "So you can help people like Casey?" "Maybe," I said. "But also people like us, the ones who get left behind." When we got home, Mom was baking cookies. The house smelled sweet like it used to when things were good. She smiled when she saw us. "Want to help?" she asked. We joined her in the kitchen, and for a while it felt like a normal family moment. We laughed, we tasted the batter, and we ate the cookies warm out of the oven. It was not perfect, but it was something. Later that night, I wrote in my journal. I wrote about how families are not always neat and tidy. Sometimes they are messy and confusing and full of hurt, but they can also be full of love, even if it does not always show in the right way. And maybe, just maybe, we were starting to heal one small step at a time. Weeks passed, and life slowly found a new rhythm in our home. It was not perfect, and some days were still hard, but something had shifted. My parents were trying, I could feel it. They asked more questions about school, offered help with homework, and even joined Jack and me for dinner without whispering about Casey every 5 minutes. It was like they finally noticed us again. One afternoon, I was sitting at the kitchen table working on my graduation speech. Even though I was not going on the trip, I had been chosen to speak at the ceremony. I stared at the blank page for a while, unsure of what to write. Then slowly the words started to come. I want to talk about strength, I wrote. Not the kind that comes from muscles or shouting the loudest, but the kind that comes from holding on when everything feels like it is falling apart. The kind of strength it takes to keep showing up even when it feels like no one sees you. I paused and looked out the window, thinking about all the moments I had felt invisible, all the times I had stayed quiet, but I was not quiet anymore. I had spoken up, and even though it caused pain at first, it also brought change. I smiled and kept writing. That weekend, we received a letter from the rehab center. It was from Casey. "Dear family, I know I hurt you. I know I let you down over and over again. I never meant to, but I see now that I did. I am sorry. This time feels different, not because of the program, but because of something inside me. I think I finally want to change, not just for you, but for me. To my little sister, I was angry when I heard what you said, but I needed to hear it. It hurt, but it opened my eyes. Thank you for being honest, even when it was hard. To Jack, you are growing up so fast. I am sorry I have not been there for you the way a big sister should be. I hope I can fix that someday. To Mom and Dad, I know you love me. I know you are scared, but I also know I have to want this more than you want it for me. I think I finally do. Love, Casey." My mom cried quietly as she read it. My dad sat still for a long time, holding the letter in his hands. Then he folded it and placed it on the table. "She's trying," he whispered. "Maybe this time." "Maybe," I said softly. We all knew better than to expect miracles, but we also knew hope could be a small thing that grows slowly, like a plant from a seed. Graduation day arrived at last. The school gym was packed with students in gowns, proud parents and teachers holding cameras. I stood on the stage with my speech in hand, heart pounding. When it was my turn to speak, I looked out into the crowd. My parents were sitting in the second row, smiling. Jack waved at me and gave a thumbs up. And to my surprise, there in the back stood Casey. She looked healthier. Her hair was tied back neatly and she wore a soft blue dress. She gave me a little nod and my eyes filled with tears. I took a deep breath and began. "I want to talk about strength." The words came easily now. They came from the heart. After the ceremony, I ran to hug my family. My mom held me tight. My dad ruffled my hair the way he used to when I was small. Jack handed me a small card he had made himself. It read, "You are the best big sister ever." And then Casey came over. She looked nervous. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I replied. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. I nodded. "Thanks for coming." She looked away, then back at me. "I meant what I wrote. I'm going to try, for real this time." "I hope you do," I said. "Not just for us, but for you." We hugged. It was not a long hug. It did not magically erase everything that had happened, but it was a start. In the days that followed, we all kept taking small steps forward. Casey checked in often and kept up with her meetings. My parents made more time for Jack and me. We even started doing Friday movie nights again, just the four of us. I never did get to go on the graduation trip, but in the end, I got something else. I got my voice back. I found a little peace. I saw my family begin to heal, and that in its own way was a different kind of journey, one that mattered just as much. Because sometimes the biggest strength is not just about saving someone. Sometimes it is about standing up for yourself and finding hope, even in the middle of heartbreak.